the Mariners trade for another bullpen arm, and now the bullpen is elite. Welcome back to another episode of the Seattle Sports Show, where we love Seattle pro sports. I'm your host, Mikey, and today we are talking about the Mariners and the big trade that they recently made for Gregory Santos. All right, we'd made this trade with the White Sox. We received Gregory Santos. We sent our reliever, Prelander Berroa, outfielder, Zach DeLoach, and the 69th pick in 2024 draft. And I absolutely love this trade. I gotta say, ever since I started doing this podcast, I started following even more sports writers' accounts than I was already following. And then so when I go on to social media, there's the on Twitter X, you have the following section, right? And then they have the For You section. And because I want this show to be a place where fans come together and have a place to celebrate our fandom together, I look at the For You section a lot more because I see a lot more, just regular fans responding to stuff that happens in sports news, in Seattle sports news. And, I am just absolutely shocked how many people, when this happened, did not like this trade, or they were upset about the trade. And I see this in baseball more than any other sport, where fans really become attached to players on the team and really attached to prospects, right? Because you draft them, and then they spend time in the system as minors, so you're kind of following them along that journey, so you become attached to them. So then when they get traded, a lot of fans get upset because they were expecting to eventually see that person on their team, right? And a lot of people were expecting a lot out of Prelander Berroa, right? I mean, if he develops, he is what Gregory Santos is, right? At his very peak, if he hits his ceiling, that is what Prelander Berroa could be. But you know what? Gregory Santos is that right now. And what do we want as Mariners fans? The Mariners to make moves for right now. If Prelander Berroa develops to be as good as Gregory Santos in a year or two, good for him. I'll be very happy for him. But I also want that bullpen in the arm. That arm in the bullpen right now. I want it now. I want this team to be making a push for the playoffs again right now, and then be pushing for the World Series. Again, our starting rotation of pitching is there. Our lineup is so much better this year than it was last year at this point. Again, as long as everybody stays healthy, right? Now, our bullpen. We have one of the best bullpens in all of Major League Baseball now, with Gregory Santos being added in. All right, listen to this. This is what we're looking at Gregory Santos coming off of this last year. This is his grades on Baseball Savant, right? The amount of pitching run value he has, 73rd percentile. Does he get a lot of run on the fastball? No, whatever. But his breaking run value, 98th percentile. He is going to be throwing some nasty stuff when he comes into the game. Okay, his off-speed run value, 45th percentile. But again, here we go. We're getting into the some more stuff. And when you go look at his Baseball Savant page, you see a lot of red, which is good. You want to have red because that means that you are at the top of the league. ERA for relievers, 89th percentile with 3.16. His XBA, 245, that's 47th percentile. But his fastball velocity, 98th percentile. His average is 98.8 miles per hour this last year. We saw him hit 103 miles per hour last year. That is straight heat. His average exit velocity. So when somebody gets a hit on him, what's the exit velocity? It's in the 53rd percentile, 88.9 miles per hour. So, that's good. You have a really high velocity, but when the ball comes off of the bat, it's exiting, 10 miles per hour slower than what the pitch was. That's really good. If we see, exit velocities going up higher, that means they're hitting the ball well. And with Gregory Santos, we're going to keep going through the numbers. You're going to see that even when people hit on him, they don't hit the ball well. And that's when they hit the ball on him, because his chase percentage, 91%. He's in the 91 percentile of chase percentage with 33.5 chase percentage. His whiff percentage in the 77th percentile. They are whiffing 30% of the time. His strikeout percentage, 44th percentile. That's all. That's all good. His walk percentile, 85th percentile. The barrel percentage. So the amount of times when players actually get a hit on him, when they actually hit the ball, do they hit it on the barrel? Do they hit the ball in the sweet spot? Well, guess what? No, they don't. He is 100th percentile. He is one of one. He is the best. Nobody hits the ball well when they actually hit the ball against him. 1.5% is the amount of times, or the amount of percentage, that when the batters actually get the bat to the ball when he throws a pitch, that they actually hit the ball on the barrel. 1.5% of the time. Best in the league. His hard hit percentage, again, 78th percentile. So, again, way up there. Not very often when, again, if they even get a hit on him, because, again, the whiff rate is high. The chase rate is high. So when they actually get that bat on the ball, only 34.8% of the time are they actually getting a hard hit. Now, another thing that you want, ground balls. Ground ball percentage, 87th percentile. 52.2% of the time, when somebody does hit the ball on him, again, which is so hard to do, A third of the time they're chasing. The other third of the time they are whiffing. And when they do hit, they're not getting it on the barrel. When they hit it, they're not hitting it hard. And now 52.2% of the time, which is again in the 87th percentile, they are hitting ground balls. So doesn't that sound great? If they actually get a hit, they're not hitting it very hard, and they're hitting it a ground ball, probably, to your shortstop, to your second baseman. They're throwing it right over to the first base and getting that out. Right? That is amazing stuff. You cannot be upset about that. We are adding that to our bullpen. And now, with the bullpen that we have, especially the end, Brash, Munoz, and now Santos, closing out games, closing out the last third of games. My goodness, it is going to be so hard. And that's, again, think about that. We are talking about, if we get into the playoffs, you're talking about having any one of our starters in our rotation pitching for a good 6-7 innings. And then you're bringing in Matt Brash. You're bringing in Andres Munoz. You're bringing in Gregory Santos. Teams are just going to have a huge headache of a time trying to hit the ball against the Mariners. You heard it. We made the playoffs 2 years ago. Teams were scared of us. We were almost in the playoffs this year, and you kept hearing across, not local radio, but national shows, TV shows, radio shows. When they would ask them, like, when it was getting close to playoff time, like, oh, who's a team, if you ran into them in the playoffs, like, that's the team you don't want to run into. Who were coaches naming, players naming? A lot of them were naming the Mariners. Why? Because of the pitching on this team. And it's just gotten even stronger. So I'm really excited. I just gave you those numbers for Gregory Santos. If you're watching on YouTube, I have the graphic up on the screen for his Baseball Savant page up there as well. So you can look at it. It's been up there on the screen. So you see those numbers for yourself. They are absolutely amazing. Again, and you know how the Mariners work, right? They never really seem to have, like, the guy that they designate and say, hey, this is our closer. But, we have 3 guys on our roster that could be very effective closers in any situation at any time. If somebody's arm is tired and isn't going to go that day, you got Santos, you got Brash, you got Munoz. So we're set to go. I'm really excited about this team going forward now. Now, of course, that was the big trade that I'm glad that I'm finally getting a chance to talk about. There's a couple other things that we got to mention with the Mariners that have happened since the last time I talked about them. Colin Snyder was claimed off of waivers from the Diamondbacks, another right-handed pitch reliever, and filled out the 40-man roster when they made that move. Now they also brought in Kanan Smith and Jigba, claimed off of waivers from the Pirates, outfielder. And you might have guessed he's related to Jackson Smith and Jigba, the receiver for the Seahawks. They are brothers. So they have brought him in, and he's actually going to be at training camp. So, there's we'll see. I mean, he played for the Pirates. There's a chance he could be an option for the Mariners at some point this season. Again, we have a very risky team when it comes to the injury history of players on here. So that, there's a chance that we see Keenan actually called up and play for this team this year, which would be a fun little story to talk about. having those brothers in two different sports play on uh, teams in the same city in different sports, and then so just yesterday they made another move. They traded right-handed pitcher Darren uh, McCowan to the Miami Marlins in exchange for cash considerations. Now, to me, great move. I don't know how much money they have. It hasn't been disclosed how much money they're getting from the Marlins. But there's no way that there's no way that Darren McCowan was going to be on this roster and contribute. Okay, because we're talking about a player that has only made 5 career major league appearances, right? With just 1 start, 7.07 ERA over 14 innings. In 2023, 5.40 ERA. So I mean, good for him. He's going to the Marlins, a team where he's going to have a chance to actually be a part of that pitching staff. Whereas in Seattle, there was going to be no chance. We just have too many good pitchers here, right? We have Castillo, we have Kirby, we have Gilbert, we have Miller, we have Wu. Hancock is going to be an option if somebody gets it. I mean, the guy didn't have a chance here. So good on him for getting traded to the Mariners, and the Mariners getting some money. I hope it's a decent amount of money. I don't know how much it is, but hopefully it's a pretty decent amount. Again, we're getting ready to go into training camp, right? So, here we go. Where it's that time, and I just am hoping the team's not done yet. Maybe I'm hoping that this move is like some sort of signal. Again, I have no idea how much money they're getting for this. They don't. It's not disclosed. So hopefully, it's again a decent amount, and it's just like that little extra push that the front office needs to go to the ownership group and say, "Hey, look, we just got just a little bit more money now. Like, let's push, and this is that little extra money we needed to sign the play." Again, even if it's just a few $100,000, can they use that to convince them enough to be like, "Hey, come on, we really need to make one more move. We're so close. Let's make a move." Okay, and again, to me, there's many options that you can go about doing this. Now, again, because I see that follow for you section that I look at a lot more often now, and be careful when you're looking at stuff on there. You're going to see people reporting things that they're not actually reporting, right? People are just saying stuff on there that has no weight behind it. Okay, and then it kind of became like a little. It seemed like a little fun thing that everybody was doing in the Mariners online community the last couple of days, where they're just saying like, "Oh, the Mariners are getting ready to finalize a deal with so and so," and it was just random people. It started out with Blake Snell, right? Because everybody really wants Blake Snell, and I saw this going on with Seahawks as well, right? I think even sometimes some of these there's a ton of like joke accounts that they always make jokes about the team, right? And that's their whole way that they show their fandom online is just making a joke account, and where they just always post jokes about the team and whatnot. But a lot of times some of these accounts become bigger, right? And get a lot of following. And then, so a lot of people might see it and then they might think that, like, oh, this is actually happening. The same way with like Seahawks accounts. You'll see some Seahawks fan accounts that get big and then they'll post something. And even if they're not making a joke, sometimes some fans are just like putting something out there because they're trying to manifest it. You saw it with the Seahawks saying like, oh, Mike McDonald, you are our new head coach, type of thing. And that's because they were wanting to manifest, like when they heard Mike McDonald was getting interviewed, they'd post a picture of Mike McDonald, like, photoshopped in Seahawks stuff and be just trying to manifest it, but it was not an actual report. I think people were doing that with stuff with Mariners the last couple of days and then became a joke. So then everybody was doing it. So who knows if any of these people are actually being considered, but my goodness, I sure hope they are. I sure would love to see a Blake Snell be considered to be brought in here again, because that just like makes that starting rotation even more dominant. And then again, because of any potential injuries, that would add even more depth there, which would just be absolutely amazing because we saw it ourselves last year. You can get a couple of pitchers injured throughout the year, and then that really can affect the outcome of your season. They can go sign one of the bats. There's still a couple of big free agent bats out there. They can go sign. And it would help the team right now. I don't care how old a player is. I don't care how so a player is. There's a lot of players that go out there that would be an improvement over what we had last year, and could potentially be an improvement of what we have on the roster right now. And help this team win another 2-3 games to make sure that that is the difference that gets us into the playoffs this year. Okay. Again, I just don't think they're going to have enough money, but a Cody Bellinger sure would be great, right? For me, there's been a lot of discourse over Matt Chapman, but again, if it's something that you're saying that, hey, maybe you get this guy on a 1-year deal and bring him in again for the right now, then it's not something I'm going to complain about or hate. Again, we mentioned Blake Snell already. I guess that's the 3 I can think of right now that would be like the big 3. I mean, Jorge Soler doesn't really make sense anymore now, right? Because DH and we signed Mitch Garver already, who is DH. We actually signed already DH. So it really, the 3 that would make the most sense for the Mariners would be Cody Bellinger, Matt Chapman, and Blake Snell. So, if we can land one of those guys for this year, I think then you are really looking at a team that is like not just saying like they were last year that they are, before the season saying that they are going to be, trying for the World Series. That would actually be a roster that you say, hey, this is a team that is going to be pushing for the World Series. Like last year, I was confident in the team. Obviously, the players that they brought in did not work. Same thing could happen this year, but I feel like what they did this year is actually in the offseason is better than what they did last year. Overall, when you look at it top to bottom, right? Last year, you saw a couple of guys that you brought in that you said, oh, that's going to be good. So you thought that was going to be enough to get you to the next step. right? And then it turned out, well, if all the players that you brought in, a Wong, um, Stella, which was not a good move. That was not part of the moves I was considering good. But you know, why am I blanking? But you know what I'm saying. When everybody that you brought in came in and did like worse than the year before, and some of them worse than they've ever done in their entire career, it just doesn't work. So this year, hopefully it works. Hopefully the players that they're bringing in are going to, be somewhere around their career average, and that's going to get us over the top. And then, um, you know, maybe just maybe one more of those free agents is the one that really puts us to the top. We'll see. Let me know what you're thinking about the Mariners right now. What did you think of the Gregory Santos trade when that happened? Um, you excited to see Kaden Smith and Jigba? You excited to have brothers in the city? This is something that interests you, or is that a cool story that you are going to be following? And then, what do you think of this last trade that they made? I mean, how much cash do you think they got? Do you think it's going to be enough? I mean, were they, is it like pennies that the ownership group is, um, trying to hold on to, you know, avoid signing one last player, or does even every little small move like that? Do you think it will be enough to add up to the Mariners making one more signing? All right, let me know in the comments. Please subscribe, like, and comment. That's what I want. I want this community to grow. I want you guys to, if you're listening on podcast version, to hit the follow button, hit the subscribe button, leave 5-star rating and a written review, because those things also help the show grow and hopefully keep building this community. I'm getting more and more people listening to the podcast and people watching the YouTube videos. So I know you're out there, and hopefully some of you are going to be more encouraged to actually comment and review, and get a little conversation going between us fans. That's what this is. That's what I started this whole thing for. It was for conversation between fans. All right. Well, that is going to be the episode. So thanks for listening to the Seattle Sports Show, where we watch legends awaken. So take cover, because with a sea of sound, you will see us rise to reign supreme and win forever.